and drum corps. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ulster County Courthouse on beautiful Wall Street in uptown Kingston, New York. My name is Tom Hoffe, and I'm the lucky guy who gets to represent one of the 10 most beautiful streets in the United States of America. And we're here this afternoon to actually receive the award from the American Planning Association. So it's a great achievement for uptown Kingston. There are 8 blocks, and actually it runs through, I'm not going to take all the credit. It's the 3rd Ward, the 4th Ward, and the 5th Ward. So a number of wards are covered on this section of Wall Street that has been designated as one of the 10 great streets by the American Planning Association. And we have a number of people who have really helped us out, and I just want to acknowledge especially Amy Peterson and Brenna Robinson. They're here today, and you know, they work in the Economic Development Office, and they really put their heart and soul into pulling this ceremony together, and we're very grateful to them. The other aldermen are here right now: Matt Dunn from the 1st Ward, Elisa Ball from the 6th Ward, and Mary Ann Mills from the 7th Ward. Mayor Shayne Gallo is here representing the city of Kingston, and he'll speak in just a little while. Representing the Ulster County, because this is a planning event. This is a recognition of the work of planning boards, planning departments. We have the representative of Ulster County Planning Board is here, Dennis Doyle. And from the city of Kingston, Sue Cahill. So as I mentioned, this is really a recognition by this national group of the significance of this street in American history, the history not only of the city of Kingston and Ulster County, but really nationally. And it's a place where you can touch the stones of history in a late 17th century stone house right down there in the corner, or walk across the street and touch the gravestones of Revolutionary War soldiers. And it is that significant, and we are that proud of it. And it really belongs to all the generations and all the people who have come before us over the course of 350 years that have made this one of the great streets of the United States. Certainly, one of the people who has been the key to all of the economic development that is going on right now in uptown Kingston is our congressman, Maurice Hinchey. The office that looks right down in our spot here today. He's had that for 20 years. And he has represented the people of Kingston, the people of Ulster County, with extraordinary dignity. He has been a spokesman for progressive causes that has been fearless in defense of our liberties and in defense of our way of life here in the Hudson Valley. He's protected our environment. He has stood up for the rights of voters. And he has been instrumental here on Wall Street, a street that he, tells me about all the time and tells me how much he loves this area. But he was instrumental in securing the funding that allowed us to redo the pike plan, to do the canopies, to do the bump outs, to attract the attention of the American Planning Association. And with that, I would like to introduce, for his remarks, our Congressman, Maurice Hinchey.
Thank you all very very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you and to be able to be standing here and looking at all of you. It's marvelous. It's great. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And I deeply appreciate the history, music. It's marvelous. Thank you very much. You're terrific. If you don't mind, I'm still recovering, and so I put together some points in reading. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read them. Is that okay? Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that it's a great pleasure for me to be here with all of you today on this beautiful fall afternoon to listen to a great song. And to recognize and celebrate one of our America's greatest streets, Wall Street, one of the greatest streets in America. The American Planning Association selected Wall Street as one of the 10 great streets of America for 2012 because it recognized the unique qualities of our uptown area. Wall Street is the perfect blend of old and new. It is a street where charming residential homes and historic buildings mix with a revitalized business district that I'm proud to have known and contributed to. And all of you have known and contributed to in all of the ways in which you've done so. First selected by the Dutch, then burned by the British, Wall Street has always been the center of uptown activity. And now recently, from the 1950s to the 1970s, this stretch of Wall Street was the heart of the Kingston business community. But it was also during the 1970s that malls began to spring up around town, and we saw a general economic decline that challenged things for this great uptown street. But that's changing, of course, now. In an effort to combat this downtown, a local architect, as you will remember, John Pike, working with the community and its leaders, designed the wonderful covered walkways, which we all know now as the Pike Plan. These walkways helped a fading uptown to compete with the new malls, and for many years, it helped keep small local businesses alive, keep things prosperous and effective here. It was a great thing for what he did. Several years ago, officials and business owners came to me with their concern about the condition of the Pike Plan portico. So when I had the opportunity to help the city of Kingston with a significant federal funding package designed to improve streets in the uptown district, I, of course, was very happy and delighted to support their plan to use the money to revitalize the Pike Plan. The $1.36 million of federal transportation funding that I was able to secure has helped to revitalize the Pike Plan and refresh the welcoming and consumer-friendly appeal of uptown Kingston. We see many new restaurants and shops bringing both locals and tourists, all of those to Wall Street. So this was a great planning architect, and I'd like to thank all of those who worked to preserve this vital structure. And while we all agree that Wall Street is a remarkable place and deserving this American Planning Association designation, I would be frankly remiss if I didn't mention North Front, which also benefited from the revitalized Pike Plan. Even on that street, also converted by the Pike Plan, we see renewed, effective economic activity. And finally, I just need to mention the marvelous structure just across the street. You know where it is. Old Dutch Church. For over 350 years, Old Dutch Church has been an icon of this great street and this great city. Over the years, I have been pleased to have been able to support and assist the dedicated congregation to maintain this historic structure. Whether it was my effort to secure another $100,000 in Saving America's Treasury, funding to undertake emergency efforts to stabilize the 340-year-old walks, all those walls, or my support for the designation of the Old Dutch Church as a National Historic Landmark, I am very proud, and I know that you are too, very proud to have helped keep this critical community institution in the forefront of resignation, all of this, resignating it nationally. So I'd like to thank the American Planning Association for recognizing Wall Street, for all it has to offer. I'd like to thank all of you who continue to keep this street a vital place to live, work, and shop, and of course, to continue to love it. All of the things that you have done, all of the things that you have understood about this marvelous place, how it has been such a marvelous structure for so many years, how it has been just a wonderful, wonderful place, and all the things that you have done to make that completed and make it more effective, and all of the things that you have done to be involved with it. For all of these things, I am deeply, deeply grateful to you. I thank you very, very much, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here with you today for this very significant, important, particularly while the sun is beginning to run a little bit. Thank you all. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Congressman. The event that we're here to celebrate is the actual designation of Wall Street and the plaque that is bestowed by the American Planning Association. And we're visited this afternoon by James Rousse, who is the president, the chapter president of the American Planning Association New York Metro chapter. He currently works also as Director of Capital Programs for the Bronx Borough President. Previously worked at Mount Hope Housing Company in the Bronx, and also Economic Development Corporation and Census Bureau in New York City. He graduated and taught at Hunter College in the MUP program, and was an undergraduate in Binghamton, and co-founded the Leading Institute, which is now part of the Arts Build community. He epitomizes to many of us who have been working in this urban planning area, either supporting it through legislation or working through the office, as someone who has pulled together many of the different programs and components that we feel is vital to redoing Uptown Kingston. So with that, I'd like to introduce James Rousse.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everyone. Welcome to one of America's great streets. Let's give a round of applause for Wall Street. Keep going. Every year, the American Planning Association hands out its awards for America's great places, including great streets. And as president of the APA New York Metro chapter, we have been lucky enough to have 2 streets designated as one of America's great streets. Wall Street in Kingston and 5th Avenue in Manhattan. And not only that, and I see our Vice President, from the Upstate chapter is here, and Saratoga Springs was also named as one of America's great places. So what does that tell me? That New York is a pretty great place. It's a great place to live, a great place to shop, it's a great place to enjoy yourself and celebrate. The American Planning Association has 47 different chapters throughout the country. New York State being the only state that has 2 chapters. And now you might say, well, that showcases, you know, the upstate versus downstate divide. Given how many awards we received this year, and this is the 11th designation since the program began in 2007, to me, we just need 2 chapters to handle all the awesomeness that New York brings. I like to look at it as a positive note. So, you know, as the congressman said, you know, giving a little bit of the history, and, you know, thank you, Congressman, for your service. You were my representative when I was an undergraduate at Binghamton, so round of applause for the congressman. Very appreciative of your service. You know, Kingston is so steeped in history, and why it's important for us to not only designate Kingston but New York City as well is because they represent, at a time in our country's history, 2 capitals. New York City was our nation's first capital, and right here in Kingston was our state's first capital. During the Revolutionary War, patriots came up to Kingston, to this courthouse, to form our state's constitution at the time. So Kingston is steeped in history. Wall Street isn't just a nice place to be. It's America. It's our history. It's where things begin. It's where the country's economic powerhouse began. And we're standing in it, we're celebrating it. And one reason why the American Planning Association wanted to designate Wall Street is not only because of its beauty and because of its history, but what it means to planners. It has everything that planners like. You know, not only history, but historic preservation. You know, I read there were height limits that were placed down Wall Street, so the historic Old Dutch Church can still be a symbol to the people of Kingston, that it's not overrun by overdevelopment, that it's a meeting place for the farmers market, which, let's give a round of applause for all the local farmers and the local produce who are supporting local agriculture, is at the heart of what the American Planning Association believes. You know, other things like the beautiful porticos, which promotes pedestrian friendly, promotes community, promotes people to come out and walk Wall Street, keeping its vibrancy, maintaining it as a beautiful place, and not an abandoned city, not, you know, they'll call New York a Rust Belt town. This isn't rust. As the Congressman said, the sun is out. It's shining bright. It's a beautiful day in Kingston. And giving opportunities for people to come out to celebrate Wall Street, to our wonderful fife and drum band that performed earlier, just shows the vibrancy. This is a successful farmers market. And the fact is that it's a part of a history, that it's continuing throughout these days, you know, just means a lot to the American Planning Association. We just want to recognize it. You know, so I thank the congressman, I thank Mayor Gallo, I thank the council members. Shout outs to my planners, Sue Cahill and Dennis, and especially, you know, thank you to Dave Gilmore, who's our section head, who helped with Amy and Brianna to help put this event together so we can designate, you know, such a wonderful award to such a wonderful place. So thank you. City of Kingston and the Honorable Shayne R. Gallo, Mayor of Kingston, the American Planning Association, through Great Places in America, designates Wall Street, Kingston, New York, as a great street, 2012. Thank you.
Very nice.
Well, I think this on? Oh, so I have to use it. Yeah. I'm sure you can hear that. Pardon me? Well, you're going to hear it, Joey. Just give me a second. You'll get it, sir. First of all, I want to point out, as Tom said he's the lucky council person to represent this area. but I'm perhaps the luckiest mayor to represent the state's first capital, which is now being recognized for our streetscape and the historical district that we're all standing in that was essentially the contributor and part of the birth of our nation. So as Maurice had indicated earlier, first of all, I want to thank Congressman Hinchey, because without Congressman Hinchey's being engaged here for the past, what, 20 years, sir, I believe, in Congress?
20 years in Washington.
20 years in Washington.
18 up in Albany.
18 up in Albany, which I had the honor of being an intern. In Maurice's office when he was the chair of the Environmental Conservation Committee when I was going to New Paltz, and when I was going to graduate school I had the honor of being an intern in Matt McHugh's office, his predecessor. So I know how hard Maurice has worked, okay, tirelessly for this city. I know how hard he's worked to obtain the necessary funding to continue the growth and the progress of not only Uptown but throughout the entire city. We are blessed. We have not only a historical sense of place that gives this community not only the bragging rights to be the state's first capital, but we have a historical sense of place that gives us a sense of being unique all along the Hudson River. Why? Look at our architecture. Look at the streetscape. As Ed Pell would tell you, some of the bluestone is over 300-some million years old. So you have a fabulous community that many of us forget how important its history is. Many of us forget where we've come from, as Maurice alluded to earlier, from the Dutch, and where I sit in my office on the top of that hill, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Afe or Congressman, okay, the residents at that time watched the British walk up Broadway, what's now Broadway, and burn Kingston. So suffice to say, we are blessed to be a part of literally contributing to the birth of what I think all of us would agree the greatest country on the planet, the United States of America.
Here, here.
So, and as Maurice had alluded to earlier, we've seen changes. I remember when I was a kid and my father was on the council with then Ray Garrigan and then Frank Koenig, if those names ring a bell to some of you old-timers out there. But those individuals were the ones with John Pike, the architect that Maurice had mentioned, who really were responsible for the Pike plan. And it was an attempt to beat back the malls that were being developed outside of Kingston that were draining all of the businesses here, okay? When I was a kid, you had literally the entire street was awash with commerce, with businesses, and the Pike plan was a sense, as our guest, our honored guest of the American Planning Association indicated, is actually a kind of a catalyst, if you will, to attract people to want to come up here. It's a very community-oriented kind of attractor. So with that in mind, I want to say again, I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of the city of Kingston. It's a great pleasure to be recognized as our honored guest had indicated earlier, that New York City, as we all know, was the United States' first capital, and there was an argument, if I recall, between Hamilton and Madison, whether or not that should continue. Obviously, we knew who won, the Virginians, but nonetheless, we can't lose sight of the fact that our state, city of Kingston, was the state's first capital. We can't lose sight of the fact that we, up in this area, actually, okay, deliberated to ratify the United States Constitution. So with that in mind, I want to thank the congressman. I want to thank the council members who sponsored this event. I also want to thank Sue Cahill, Brenna Robinson, and Amy Peterson, okay, who were responsible for this. Thank again the American Planning Association. And just very quickly, I'd just like to thank those who sponsored this event, the Uptown businesses, who really get where they do business and why they do business, and really understand the significance of this award. First, let me point out Karen Baptitatum, CRSR Designs Inc. If you could hold your applause until I'm done, please, so I can get off the stage and get about your day. Evolving Media Network, Hudson Valley Coffee Traders, the LGBTQ, Ulster Savings Bank, Assemblyman Kevin Cahill, Fleischers, George Redder, the attorney down the street, Schneider's Jewelers, Tonner Doll Company, Brenna and Amy from Economic Development, along with Sue. I want to especially thank Chef F, okay, from Andula's Catering, Dominic's Cafe, Market Basket, Maynard Farms, Outdated, Renee's Bistro, Sissy's Cafe, and the Big Cheese, and of course, the Kingston Patrolman Benevolent Association also contributed to the sponsoring of this day. So, without any further ado, thank you for coming. Thank you for assisting us in recognizing how great this street is, what it does for the city of Kingston, gives us a sense of being a very unique community, and I'm very blessed and honored to be mayor here to accept this award. Thank you very much.